Welcome to another deep dive today. We're going to be talking all about UFOs and space and all the mysteries around them.
Right.
We're going to be talking about the book UFOs and Outer Space Mysteries. It's by James Oberg. He's a really interesting guy. He kind of calls himself like a sympathetic skeptic.
Uh-huh.
So he's not like, all UFOs are fake. He's
Yeah.
like, well, let's take a look. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to be looking at what he thinks and kind of like what he's found from all of his investigations.
He takes a very scientific approach to
Yeah.
the idea of investigating these things.
Right.
He's looking at the evidence and the facts and trying to find explanations that are, logical and plausible.
Yeah, and it's really cool because we're going to focus on like the intersection of ufology and the space age. So it's like our ventures into space have fueled some of these stories.
If we assume for a moment that UFOs are indeed alien spacecraft, wouldn't they be interested in our ventures beyond Earth? It's fascinating, and this has captured the imaginations of so many people. It's led to some truly bizarre tales.
Okay, so give me an example. Like what kind of bizarre tales are we talking about here?
Oh, well, there's the story of a missing rocket that's supposedly returned on its own.
Oh, okay.
During a training exercise, an ICBM vanishes mid-flight.
Wow.
Now, you'd think that's the end of the story,
Right.
but the next day, this rocket reappears. It flies a perfect course to its target. And people were thinking, did someone retrieve and repair this rocket? Did something do that?
Wait a minute. So this rocket like comes back from the void and finishes the mission. That's like a little creepy. It's very Twilight Zone-ish.
Right.
So, okay, that would fuel a lot of like alien theories, I think. What does Oberg say about this?
Well, Oberg dives into the details, and what he often finds is that these stories, while entertaining, often crumble when you look closely at the details. They lack that hard evidence.
Okay.
They rely on hearsay. They misinterpret some of the technical details.
Okay, so in the case of this missing rocket, was it like a technical glitch? Or is this just like a really good campfire story that just went viral?
It's very likely a combination of factors.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a simple misinterpretation of radar data. Sometimes it's a miscommunication.
Yeah.
Other times it could be a genuine anomaly.
Yeah.
But with more investigation, it turns out to have a perfectly natural explanation.
So it's not always, aliens. It's our human tendency, I think, to look for the most exciting possible explanation we
Right.
want to believe. And when it comes to astronauts,
Right.
and UFOs, there's this kind of like cultural myth that astronauts have seen things up there, things they can't talk about.
Yeah.
Is that true? I mean, has anyone ever actually seen anything?
Well, that myth is very strong, especially around Apollo 11. The first time humans landed on the moon, there are claims out there about astronauts encountering these strange objects,
Oh, really?
formations of spaceships, even like a snowman-shaped UFO.
A snowman-shaped UFO.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of that goes back to like suppressed photos and transcripts and all that.
Right, right. So Buzz Aldrin, he caught something on film, but he was like told to be quiet.
Right.
That's the rumor. But did Oberg find any truth to these claims?
Yeah.
Oberg spent a ton of time looking into the Apollo 11 stories.
Okay.
He looked at NASA records, he interviewed officials, he even tracked down like supposed photographic evidence.
Uh-huh.
What he found was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Okay.
So a lot of the claims were based on like misinterpretations of radio chatter or just blurry images.
Okay.
He even found some photos that were just blatant forgeries.
So no evidence of like a cosmic Watergate then?
Yeah.
No, not that Oberg found. What he found was that the stories that sound the most sensational often lack any real substance.
Okay, so it's not just what people see, it's how it gets interpreted,
Yeah.
and then how those observations turn into rumors and speculation.
Yeah. We have to be careful about anecdotal evidence because it's not proof.
Okay, but how do you, like, determine the truth? When people swear they've seen things or been abducted, how do we figure that out?
That's the million-dollar question. How do we determine the truth?
Yeah.
Oberg actually looks at the limitations of, like, methods that are often used to uncover the truth,
Okay.
particularly in UFO investigations. So things like hypnosis and polygraph tests and things like that.
Yeah, like the Pascagoula kidnapping. That one was interesting.
Oh, right.
And they used a polygraph, right,
They did.
on those guys.
Yeah. But polygraphs are far from perfect.
Oh, really?
Even if someone passes a polygraph, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're telling the truth about an alien abduction. Then you've got the issue of hypnosis. This comes up in the Betty and Barney Hill case, one of the first widely publicized stories.
I've heard of that one.
They claim to have seen a star map inside the alien craft. And that map was later decoded to point to the aliens' home star system.
Right.
But they had undergone hypnotic regression to try to recover repressed memories of the abduction.
So how accurate is that? If those memories are recovered through hypnosis, can we trust them?
Well, that's the problem.
Okay.
Oberg highlights the problem with hypnotic regression, especially in this context, in the context of UFO investigations. It can be highly suggestive. You can actually implant false memories through hypnosis.
Yeah.
Memories recovered through hypnosis should really be treated with extreme caution.
Wow. That's really interesting. So our brains are kind of trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
They want to create like a story that makes sense.
Right.
But that might mean adding details that weren't actually there.
Our memories are reconstructions. They're not perfect recordings.
So these tools, they're supposed to help us find the truth, like hypnosis and polygraphs. But they might actually be like leading us in the wrong direction, maybe even making things more confusing.
They're muddying the waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Oberg actually has a really, really interesting case that he talks about, the Kentucky abduction case.
Yeah.
And during a hypnotic session, they showed the witness drawings of like typical alien figures,
Yeah.
which completely contaminated the memory.
They didn't mean to. They were just trying to get the witness to remember more. But the witness then recalled seeing similar beings.
Oh, wow.
And it just goes to show how suggestibility can influence what we remember.
Yeah, okay, this is scary. This is getting really scary, actually.
Right.
Because it makes you question how much of what we believe to be true is actually, like, real, and how much is just, like, suggestion or our own desire to see something extraordinary.
And that brings us to the moon.
Oh.
Because we've all seen these grainy images from the Apollo missions. But are there things hidden in plain sight?
I've heard all sorts of stories,
Right.
about artificial structures, like
Mhm.
towers and vehicles and, like, bridges. I even heard that NASA has these, like, secret missions to the moon to investigate, like, alien activity
Yeah.
and, like, psychic astronauts.
Oh, yeah. Oberg dives into that stuff. He examines claims by authors like George Leonard and Don Wilson,
Okay.
who argued that NASA photos actually contain evidence of alien activity.
Uh-huh.
They were pointing to those things you mentioned, towers, vehicles, bridges, and all these supposedly artificial structures.
Yeah, okay. But those authors, they were, like, misinterpreting, right?
Right.
They were seeing, like, shadows and natural formations and thinking it was, like, alien tech.
They were. And Oberg debunked those claims pretty thoroughly. He went to the Lunar and Planetary Institute, and he tracked down the original NASA photos, and there was no evidence of anything artificial.
Okay. So is it just our brains, then? Like seeing a bunny rabbit in a cloud.
We're wired to see patterns.
Yeah.
But Oberg highlights this thing he calls the Galileo effect.
Oh, okay.
Some UFO proponents will use this idea of scientific suppression to deflect criticism. So they'll say, scientists are hiding the truth about UFOs just like the church tried to hide what Galileo discovered.
Whoa, okay.
So it's like they're playing the victim card a little bit.
Yeah. But does that actually, like, hold up under scrutiny?
Not really. Oberg's investigations actually show that those moon myths, like many UFO claims, tend to fall apart when you look at the evidence.
But even if we dismiss, like, the artificial structures, what about those lunar transient phenomena?
The LTPs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scientists have actually, like, observed those, right?
Man.
Like glows and flashes and even, like, mists on
Yeah.
the moon.
Yeah.
That's going to be more than just a misinterpretation, right?
You're right. LTPs are a real phenomenon, and scientists are still trying to figure out exactly what causes them. They could be caused by outgassing or meteoroid impacts or even electrostatic charging.
Oh, okay.
But while they're unexplained, they're not necessarily evidence of aliens.
Okay, so just because something's a mystery, it doesn't mean it's, like, automatically aliens.
Right. It's about keeping an open mind and exploring all the possibilities.
Yeah.
But maybe not jumping to conclusions.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about missing rockets, moon myths, all that. But there's this whole other mystery that's, like, shrouded in Cold War secrecy.
Yeah.
The tales of Russia's missing cosmonauts.
Oh, yeah.
This is like a real-life spy thriller?
It is. And Oberg actually got pulled into this mystery.
Yeah.
He spent months researching reports of dead Russian cosmonauts. But what he actually ended up finding was something else entirely, something much more fascinating.
Okay, what did he find?
He found evidence of systematic photo tampering.
Wait,
So he actually discovered instances where cosmonauts were airbrushed out of official Soviet photos.
hold on. So they just, like, made people disappear?
Like they never existed.
That's straight out of, like, 1984.
It is. It's really creepy when you think about it.
So why? Why would they do that?
That's what Oberg is trying to figure out.
Okay.
He compared photos, analyzed newsreels, he really tried to piece together the clues to figure out what happened to these missing cosmonauts.
And what did he find? What happened to them?
Well, he didn't find one single answer,
Okay.
but he found some evidence that suggests these cosmonauts were dropped from the program for a bunch of reasons. Maybe they had medical issues, academic failures, personal problems, things the Soviet government wanted to keep quiet.
Wow. Okay. So it's not some sinister conspiracy where they were like sent on a one-way mission.
Right.
It's more like the system was so demanding that anyone who didn't meet their impossible standards was just like erased.
That's a really good way to put it.
It makes you wonder how much of history is actually real,
Yeah.
and how much is just like a story that someone wants us to believe.
Right. And it makes you think, what else are they hiding?
Okay, we're not done yet, are we?
No.
Because he also tackles a more recent case, the jellyfish UFO.
Oh, yes.
The glowing jellyfish over a city in Russia. This one sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does.
So I'm ready for some more of Oberg's, skepticism and his insights.
Okay.
Shall we continue our deep dive?
Absolutely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into James E. Oberg's UFOs and outer space mysteries. It's really kind of amazing how space exploration and like UFOs and all, it's all kind of like mixed up together, right?
Right, yeah.
So let's actually switch gears a little bit. We were talking about Russia.
Yeah.
Let's head over to Africa.
Okay.
Where we've got a real mystery, the Dogon tribe.
Okay.
And their knowledge of Sirius B.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about this. This is really interesting. Yeah, it's super interesting. So the Dogon tribe, it's this like isolated tribe in Mali. And they're said to possess this like really intricate knowledge of the Sirius star system.
Yeah.
Particularly Sirius B.
Right, which is a white dwarf star.
Right. And here's the thing. Sirius B is incredibly faint. Like, you can't really see it without a telescope.
Right.
So how did this tribe, without any modern technology, know about it?
Right. Yeah, that's the big question.
It's a great question.
And it's fueled a lot of speculation. I think some people think like maybe ancient astronauts visited them.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
And shared this cosmic knowledge.
Right, like extraterrestrials came down and said, hey, check out this star.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but does it actually hold up?
Yeah. What does Oberg think about all this?
Well, Oberg looks into the claims made by Robert K.G. Temple.
Okay.
He wrote a book called The Sirius Mystery.
Uh-huh.
And Temple argues that like the Dogon knowledge of Sirius B goes all the way back through Egyptian mythology to the ancient Sumerians.
Wow.
And he's implying there's this extraterrestrial connection there. He even suggests that the Dogon myths describe a third star in the system, Sirius C.
Sirius C.
Which hasn't even been discovered yet.
Wow. Okay. So a third star in ancient astronauts. That's a pretty big leap. What evidence does he have? Like, what's he basing this on?
Well, Temple relies pretty heavily on, like, interpretations of Dogon mythology and their rituals.
Okay.
But Oberg points out some problems with his research. For example, Temple claims that certain locations in Egypt are equidistant, and that this, like, shows advanced geodetic knowledge linked to Sirius lore.
Okay, so they were really good at measuring distances and stuff.
Yeah, supposedly. But Oberg, using modern mapping techniques, shows that those distances are actually off, like by a lot.
So not as accurate as Temple was claiming?
Right, not at all.
Okay.
And it seems like Temple was maybe like a little too eager to connect the dots.
Yeah, he wanted to find those aliens.
Maybe. Oberg also suggests that, maybe the Dogon knowledge of Sirius B actually came from more recent interactions.
Okay.
Like with European explorers and anthropologists who visited the tribe in the early 1900s.
Okay, so instead of aliens, it's just like cultural exchange.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Dogon are very good at absorbing new information. They take it and make it part of their existing belief system.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, actually.
It does.
It's still a cool story, though.
It is. It makes you wonder how many other, like, ancient mysteries actually have, like, more down-to-earth explanation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
Okay, well, speaking of mysteries with possible earthly explanations, let's talk about the Tunguska event.
Oh, yes.
This one is, like, truly bizarre.
It is.
So you've got this, like, massive explosion in Siberia back in 1908.
Right.
Just, like, flattening trees for hundreds of square miles.
Hundreds of square miles.
What caused it? Like, what could do that?
It's a great mystery. It
Yeah.
has, like, sparked so many theories. Meteor impacts, exploding alien spaceships.
Okay, I gotta ask, like, what's the evidence for the alien spaceship theory?
Well, that's the thing. There isn't any. Despite, like, tons of expeditions to the Tunguska site,
Mm-hmm.
no one has ever found, like, spaceship wreckage or anything like that.
Okay, so no debris, no proof of a spaceship.
Right.
Okay. But, like, the blast patterns, they were kind of weird.
Yeah. They ran
Like, it wasn't just a normal meteor impact.
Right. Oberg actually talks about an experiment by some Russian scientists.
Right.
They tried to, like, recreate the Tunguska blast patterns.
Yeah.
And they did it by, like, suspending explosives over a model forest
Okay.
to try to simulate, like, the sonic boom and, like,
Yeah.
the breakup of an object entering the atmosphere.
Okay.
And they created a blast pattern that was very similar to what they saw at Tunguska.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that could explain the blast pattern, but, like, we still don't know what the object was.
I
Right?
don't. Most likely it was a comet or an asteroid, but scientists are still debating about that. And I think this is where Oberg's approach is really important. He's not saying, oh, it's aliens.
Right.
He's saying, let's be open to the unknown, but let's not get carried away with speculation.
Yeah.
Just because we don't have all the answers doesn't mean we had to jump to the most sensational explanation.
Right, right. Okay, so let's go back to Russia for a second
Okay.
and talk about those missing cosmonauts again.
Uh-huh.
So Oberg found evidence of photo tampering,
Yeah.
but, like, what does that tell us about the Soviet system?
Well, it says a lot about their obsession with secrecy and control.
Right, this was the Cold War. They
Yeah.
couldn't, like, look weak, right? So
Cause
they
it's
just
strange.
erased people from history to make it look like everything was perfect.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how much of what we know about Soviet space history is actually true and how much has been, like, manipulated.
It's kind of disturbing when you think about it.
It is. It's a good reminder to be critical of, like, all sources of information,
Yeah.
even the ones that seem really authoritative.
Okay, let's move on to a more recent case then.
Okay.
This one brings us back to Russia and back to the world of UFO sightings. The jellyfish UFO incident.
Yes.
This sounds like it's straight out of, like, a sci-fi movie. Glowing jellyfish terrorizing a city. I'm ready for another dose of Oberg's skepticism.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so the jellyfish UFO. What happened there?
This one's really interesting because at first it totally seems like a UFO. You've got this mysterious object, people freaking out, reports of, like, holes in the pavement, even electronics going haywire.
So, like, full-on alien invasion vibe.
Right. But Oberg, he knows a lot about space.
Mm.
And he suspected something else was going on.
What was it?
It turns out it was the launch of Cosmos 955.
Cosmos what now?
955, a Soviet spy satellite.
Oh, okay. A spy satellite.
And it was launched from the Plethets Cosmodrome.
Oh, that secret launch site. The one those British schoolboys found.
That's the one. Isn't it crazy?
It is. So how does a spy satellite turn into, like, a giant jellyfish in the sky?
Well, it all comes down to rocket science. Rocket launches, especially at night, they can create these really crazy visual effects.
Okay.
Because of the exhaust plume, it interacts with the upper atmosphere.
So it's, like, not aliens, but chemistry and physics?
Exactly. The gases from the rocket, they expand and the sunlight hits them. Creates these luminous clouds and, like, swirling patterns.
I guess if you don't know what you're looking at, it could look pretty strange.
Right. To someone on the ground, it could totally look like an alien invasion.
So it's all about perspective.
Yeah. Oberg actually breaks it all down. He looks at the launch trajectory, the timing, the atmospheric conditions.
Okay.
And he shows how all of that would have created those visual effects.
Like a detective for space mysteries.
That's a good way to put it.
So was everyone convinced by his explanation?
Well, most Western observers, yeah, they accepted the satellite explanation pretty quickly. But some Russian ufologists, not so much.
Really?
Yeah, they were sticking to the alien theory.
Even with all the evidence?
They even came up with some pretty wild theories to explain away the truth.
Wow. So even when you've got the facts, some people just really want to believe, huh?
I guess so. It just shows you how powerful beliefs can be.
Yeah. It also shows how important it is to, like, be open to new information, but also be critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't just believe everything you hear. Do your own research.
Right.
And don't be afraid to change your mind when the evidence points in a different direction.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Missing rockets, moon myths, missing cosmonauts. We even had a spy satellite pretending to be a UFO.
It's been quite a journey.
What's the, like, main takeaway from all this? What does Oberg want us to remember?
Be skeptical,
Okay.
but also be curious.
Okay, I like that.
Question your assumptions. Consider different explanations.
Don't just jump to conclusions.
Right. And this is important for everything, not just UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the information we see every day. We have to be critical thinkers.
So Oberg, he's debunking a lot of these myths, but he's also saying, hey, there are still mysteries out there.
Absolutely. And the search for knowledge never really ends. We're always learning, always discovering new things.
That's a great point. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into UFOs and outer space mysteries.
It's been a lot of fun exploring these ideas with you.
It has. Thanks for joining us.
And remember, keep asking questions, stay curious, and keep exploring the world with an open mind.
Who knows what mysteries are waiting out there to be discovered? Until next time, keep looking up.